What I'm going to do now is to take the measurements between the binding strakes and the waterway all along on every beam, and then divide that by the number of strakes shown on this plan, and that'll give us the average width of the plank and the taper that goes both in the bow and in the stern. And it's relatively consistent. When we turn it into planks, what it shows is that the great majority of the boards in the center are the same relative size, which are 9 inches wide, and then they taper down towards the bow and stern. The heating put the bend that I wanted. I suppose you could cut it, but it would be very difficult. But it's not under a lot of pressure, and light clamping should hold it in place. In fact, if you look at any of the old boats being restored or rebuilt, you'll see that steam bending is how many of the planks were put on place and pulled in by various strong clamps. So using the blow dryer is a correct method, and it's probably how these planks were bent and placed on the rail ship. This is the first time I am going to be cutting these planks on the side, which is referred to as joggling. It looks a lot harder than it is. It's really quite easy. The main plank is still 9 inches wide, but to get the joggle in, you need to start off with a 12-inch plank. So to do this, we've fitted the first one, and we heat bended this one into place, and it's holding the shape. Probably needs just a little persuasion. And what we're going to do is cut in 3 inches. The rule seems to be 1/3. It should cut in approximately 1/3 of the thickness of the plank at this point. So that'll give us a 9-inch plank, and then this whole plank then becomes 9 inches. Finally got some exact similarities between the plan and my ship, and that is that this is plank 12, and so we're going to have a butt joint off the beam, the center of the beam here. And then the most important thing is the cut. We can no longer square because this is a curved plank, but it must be at 90 degrees to the center line of the boat. David's plan calls for 3 joggles in the stern and 5 in the front. I ended up with 5 and 5. I really don't think it matters whether they're even odd. It would be nice if they were even on either side of the boat. But however it works out is fine from a layout point of view. It simply must look balanced. Also, the number of these cuts will depend on where you started putting them in. So if we started at the front in particular and started 3 or 4 planks earlier, which would be fine, then obviously they would have many more joggles on the floor plan. Just thought I'd take you through a quick idea of how a joggle was cut. First, we mark the outside, which is the extent of the 12-inch plank. Then we push the plank so we can mark where the curve meets the last plank. Then we draw the line, which is the taper that's going to take place at the end of the plank. And this can result in many fittings until we get a perfect join. Then I've set up the pre-act to cut the 9-inch wide plank. In fact, I'm so lucky that I have multiple saws that I can have permanent settings while I'm doing this, because it really made a huge difference. The only thing that I haven't fully developed is the clamps to pull the planks against one another. I use a number of tweezers, particularly one I had gotten from an aquarium trade, which is nice and big and long, allowed me to span big spaces. Be very interested to hear what other people use to pull the planks. She's coming along nicely. We have 3 boards on either side left to place, and then a cleanup. What I've been doing is to reduce the amount of cleanup. When I put the boards in, I take a cloth filled with alcohol and wipe them off, and I've even put some steel wool on it to try and get rid of the staining that you're seeing here, because it requires a lot of extra sanding to take this glue out. Of course, I have my little sanding board, which is doing yeoman service, which is just a little board I made up with some sticky sandpaper on it. I also use a scraper, either a chisel or an actual scraper, to pull as much of the glue off as I can. Cleanup is perhaps the biggest challenge that I had with this build. We have fitted the second to last pieces, so it's just to stick them in, and then we'll have the last piece, which will be measured off of each beam and then fitted. This brings us to the end of this session of planking the lower deck, and it also brings me to the end of this year. I'm off to Tobago in a few days' time and won't be back until the 4th of January. So I hope you've enjoyed my little contribution to model building, me showing you all the errors and the tremendous highs that I get from conquering the various challenges that David and Greg have given me, and I have in fact passed these challenges on to you. So I hope you've enjoyed the videos. I hope you found them useful. The only reason that I do these videos is to make the path a little easier for those that follow in this build. And it certainly has been a wonderful experience and has lifted my skill level to where I feel a lot more confident as I go forward. So I hope all of you have a wonderful Christmas, a safe and happy New Year. Keep far away from COVID, and we'll see you in the new year when we put the beams on the next deck and start the planking. All the very best to you and your family.